Hey, what's up everyone? So in this video we will be working on a front-end mentor challenge. So this will be the design and we'll be making use of HTML, CSS and a bit of JavaScript. So in this video you learn how to lay out your site using CSS grid and also CSS Flexbox. You learn how to make the page to be mobile responsive. So we'll make use of a bit of JS in order to create our side menu, and here will be the end result. Okay, so we have some simple hover effect. We will lay out the site like this nicely using CSS grid and also CSS Flexbox. When I inspect here and go to mobile mode, we will make it to be mobile responsive. When I click on the side menu, we open it, and also we can close it by clicking the X icon. We'll also create this backdrop, this transparent area, and when you click on it, it also closes the side menu. So this is an awesome project, a simple one, but it will really help you to get started with creating web pages using CSS grid, CSS Flexbox, and also making them to be mobile responsive. If you need the source code, it will be available for free on my GitHub, and I'll leave a link at the description section below. Now to get started, you need to go to frontendmentor.io, this link right here, and then you'll visit the news homepage project. So I'll leave a direct link at the description section below so that you can easily find this page, and then all you need to do is to start the challenge. So if you don't have an account, you'll be asked to log in. You can use GitHub for that. Just log in or create the account, and then you visit the challenge hub, okay, or start the challenge. So once you get here, you will get to download starter files, and all you need to do is to download the starter. So once you download, you'll get a zipped file, and that zipped file will look just like this one right here. So you need to unzip. So I'll extract all right here, and I'll extract in the same location. So extract so that you unzip the files, and once you unzip you'll get this folder right here. So I'll go ahead and delete the zipped one. I remain with this one, and we have another one in there still. So I like having it as one, so I'll just cut this and go back one step and paste it here. Paste it. So now we have only one. Okay, I don't know if you have noticed the difference, but it's only this one now. In that one we don't have any other but our files. So these are the starter files, and I need to open this with Visual Studio Code. That is my preferred code editor. So I'll click on right here, type cmd to open the command prompt, and from here I can just say code space and a period or a full stop and hit enter, and this will open my code on Visual Studio Code. So here is the code, or rather the starter files are traced from the source, and yeah, here we are. So now when you see when you look at the files, I know this is a bit small. Let me just zoom in for you. I hope this is big enough. So these are the starter files right here. We have the text. We don't have to type anything. That is index.html. We have the style guide. So this is telling us about the design. The designs were created for the following width. So the design will work well on a desktop of this width, a mobile of this width. Okay. For other dimensions, it might not be perfect. Okay, you need to remember that. Then we have the colors here. We have the other colors here again. Then we have the font family, it's inter, the font weight. Also we have the font size for the paragraph. So this is some good info for the design, okay, so that it looks exactly like what we have. Then we have the assets. This include the fonts. Actually, you have inter here, static, inter bold, inter extra bold. Okay, actually I had not seen these ones, but they are provided here. Then we have the images right here. You can make use of these images. Then we have the designs. Okay, so for desktop design, it looks like this. This is what I just showed you. We have the desktop preview. Mobile design will look like this. We have active states. So on active, this link should look like this. This one should look like this. This one, this one. And then for mobile menu, it should be like this. So awesome. Explore these files, and they'll really come in handy while we work on our design. Okay, cool. Now let's just get started. We'll get started with the HTML by writing the markup. So for this one, I'll just put the design to be side by side so that we see what we are doing. So let me open mobile design on the side here, and I can split the screen like this. So I have it here, and I can work on the HTML here. That makes sense? I hope so. So we can start by working on our navbar. And when we look at this page, first of all, we will create a container so that we can include padding and width and some margin if we need for this outside spacing. And then I will divide that container into two. We will have a header which will have this particular nav, and then we will have a hero section which will be this one here. So inside the body, I will go ahead and create a div with the class of container. I can just say dot container. When I hit enter, we have what we call emet, and that will complete our tag like that. Okay, and then in here we will have nav, and also we will have a hero section. So I'll say section dot hero hyphen section. When I hit enter, that will create a section tag with a class of hero section. Now let's start by working with our nav here. So for the nav, actually I should have included it inside a tag that we call header. So I'll say header, and then inside the header we will have our nav. Now let's work on our nav. For the nav, first of all we have a logo, and then we have the links. So right here I can say dot logo for the logo. Then we add our logo, which will be available in the images. So assets here, images, and we have the logo here as an SVG. So we can just add it directly. So in here I will add it as an image. I can say img, hit enter, and the source will be assets, and then stroke images, and then stroke. We have now the logo dot svg. Alt, we can just say logo. Now when I save, this should show up. So let me open this one with live server. So I am using an extension called live server. So you can search for live server here. This one, I am using this one to load our page so that it can auto refresh whenever we make a change. So if you are not aware of it, you can install it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and open this with the live server, and this will open on my default browser, which is a Brave browser. And you can see right here we have added our logo on the page. Awesome. So let me do like this. Now we can go ahead and add our links after our logo. So we are on the nav, we have added the logo. let's go ahead and add the links. So I'll add a div with a class of links. Inside the links, I'll use an a tag which will have a href of hash. Then inside this a tag we will have the placeholder or the word of the link here. So I want to just first duplicate this one into 1 2 3 4 5 times. So we have 1 2 3 4 5. So you can copy and paste it, or you can use Alt Shift and the bottom arrow to duplicate it. Okay, so right here I'll use home, and then here we will have new, here we will have popular, here we will have trending, and here we will have categories. So I save that, and we should have those links right here. You see them: home, new, popular, trending, category. So this is the content of our nav, and actually I can delete that from here so that we remain with the other content. So I will save. Okay, now for me it's a good idea to always first write a bit of HTML and then style that HTML. So without writing any other content, I want us to style this navbar. So let's go ahead and open a CSS file. Actually right here you'll see that we have a bit of CSS. I think we have this CSS here. So what I will do, I'll just remove it, and I like to use an external CSS, so I will remove this one. And you can customize the title if you want. I'll leave it like that, and right here I'll just say link, and you'll see we have suggestions, and I'll click on link :CSS, and this will give us the link for CSS, and it has linked to a file called style.css. You can change it or just use this one. So I will save this HTML file, and then I'll come here, click at the root, okay, at the root right here, and create a new file, and I'll call it style.css. Now for CSS, I usually like to add some default styles, and for these default styles I'll select all the elements, use a comma. I will select all the pseudo before elements, so before right here. So this is a pseudo element, but I select all the befores, then I select all the after pseudo elements like that, and I will add some styles for this. I will remove the defaults, so I'll set margin here to be 0, and then I will set the padding here to be 0, and I also like to set the box sizing, box sizing to be border box. So by default box sizing is usually a content box, but by setting it to border box, it will allow you, whenever you set a width, that width will include both the padding and the border, and the border and padding will not increase the size of the element. So I'll set it to border box, and then we need to set our font family, and right here I will set it to Inter, and a fallback of sans serif. So we need to bring in this font. We actually have it here, but I don't know how to make use of this actually, so I will figure that one out later. But what I will do, I'll make use of Google font, okay, for Inter, and we need to bring in bold 400, 700 and 800. So just go on Google. Actually it's also specified here, we can also find it on Google. Just click on this link, use control, click it, and you'll go to Google Fonts. We have Inter here, and all we need to do is scroll down, select 400. We need to make use of 700 here, and we need to make use of 800. Also, let me dismiss. I'll make sure I have inter, we have regular, bold and extra bold. I'll import it using CSS, so I'll make use of this one and select whatever we have between the style tags. I will copy that and go to CSS, style.css, paste it at the very top. Okay, I'll paste it here, and this is how we bring inter font from Google Font. You can bring any other font just like that. Then this is how we make use of the font family inter sans serif, and this is how we have made use of it. Okay, and now in our site, okay, this is the complete one. Let me just close it, this one here. So when I save, you will see the font transform. Okay, so I will save, and you'll notice that the font has transformed to inter. Awesome. So that is a good start. Let me close these other pages which I'm not using, and we remain with this one. So let's move on. So another thing that I like to do whenever we have a design like this one is specify all our colors in what we call a CSS variables. So let's set some CSS variables. If you have never set CSS variables before, this is how we usually do it. So I'll press this to be side by side with my CSS here. I think I can bring this on this other side actually. So we have CSS here and style guide here. So select the root element and then open that, and in here we give our CSS variables names. So here we have soft orange, so I'll copy this, paste it here, and to begin the word of the variable we use double hyphen, then I'll use small letters all along, and it should be one word, so I'll join it using the hyphen. So for soft orange I'm writing it like this for the variable name, then full colon, then I include our color. I'll copy that HSL, paste it here. So that is our first variable, and I'll do like this for the rest. So right here we will have soft hyphen red, copy that color and paste it here, and then we will have these ones off white, copy paste, okay, actually always start with the double hyphen for the variable. Then we have grayish blue, grayish hyphen blue. I will copy and paste it, then we will have dark grayish blue, so dark hyphen grayish hyphen blue, then copy and paste it, and then we will have very dark blue, very dark blue, and I'll copy and paste it. Okay, so we have set our CSS variables like this. We have these default settings and we have the font right here. Okay, good progress. Now the next thing is to style our container. Remember, we decided to create a container that is wrapping all our content. Actually down here I'll remove this div, and yeah, so I will select the container, so I'll say dot container, and for my container I'll give it a max width. Okay, so this design, again, it was created for a 1440px width of a screen, and my screen here is a bit wide. Actually it's kind of wide, therefore I need to specify the width for my design. You can do the same if you want. Okay, so right here I'll set the width to be 1440px, and if I include a background color for this one to be, let's say, blue, and save, you'll see 1440 gets to this point. Okay, so if I use the entire width, the design might not look as expected, therefore that's why I'm setting a max width. Okay, and then I need to center this container. You can see it's not at the center, so for this you can just use here margin auto, margin of auto, and when I save, you will see that now this is at the center, so it's setting margin auto on both sides. And this content is outside our container, so don't worry about it, we will be removing it bit by bit. Cool. So far so good. We can see our container. Actually, let's use some grayish color just to see it. It's not needed, this background color, it's just for us to work with. Now another thing is we need to set the padding for the container and maybe the height. Okay, so right here I'll set the height to be 100 VH. That will take the entire viewport height. Now works well for a smaller laptop, but again I'm on a wider screen, so it will still take the entire height. And then right here I can use padding here. Top and bottom I'll make use of 40px, and then left and right I'll make use of 200px. And now you see this is our container here, the grayish part for me, and here is our nav, and then the height takes the entire viewport height from here to here, and when I scroll down we get the other content. So this is our container, and you can see we have included some padding from this point to this point as required by the design. Okay, so the design has that spacing. You can see spacing here. So let me take this back here. Now that is the container. Let's add a font to it for everything. By default we will have a font weight of 400, which we imported on our font here, and then we need to start styling our nav here. So when we look at the nav, this is the nav, we have two things. We have the logo and the links. To place them side by side, I'll make use of Flexbox. So right here, let's just select the nav, and we will add the display of flex, and then we will let's see what we have first. So by default that will align the items in a row. So this is here now, this is here, but before we didn't have this. Before, this is what we had. So when I save, we had this. So by default our Flexbox will set the items to be in a row. Okay, but we need them to be aligned nicely. So right here what we will do, we will add an align items of center like that, and now this should be at the center here. Also we need to push this to the very end, so we will use justify content of space between. So I'll use justify content of space between, and this will create space between them. Okay, so space between, and here now we have spacing between them. You can see logo here, icon, and our links there. Now another thing, we can set some margin bottom so that below here and the nav we will have the spacing. Okay, so for the nav, let's also add margin to the bottom of about 20px, and then I'll save. Cool. Now we need to style the links, so I'll select nav A, and we need to remove the lines here. So I'll say text decoration to be none, and you'll see that that removes the line. So we need to add the color, and we'll make use of our variables here. So let me show you how to consume the variable. We'll set color. We have a method called var, okay, and a method looks like this on a function var. Then we call it using the brackets. So if you have used a programming language before, you know what I mean, but if you haven't, this is how we call it, var for variable. Then we include the variable name in here. In this case, I'll make use of the dark grayish blue for the color. So I'll say dark grayish blue. I save, and now look, our colors has transformed. Another thing, we need to include spacing between them. So I'll include margin to the right. So I'll say margin to the right of 20px, and also I'll include a smaller font size here, font size of about 14px. So by default it's usually, I think, 16 or 18. I set it to 14. And here are our links. Now we need to include some hover effect to the links. So for the hover effect, we can say nav A full colon then hover. So this is a pseudo selector, and all we need to do is change the color right here to be var. Then we will use the yellow color, which is soft orange. It's not yellow, it's orange. So I'll say soft okay, I don't need to call that twice. Sorry. So I'll say double hyphen soft orange. I don't know why it's not suggested, but let's use soft orange here. Save. Now when I hover, you can see it's changing the color to soft orange. Actually, I'll go ahead and remove this background color from our container so that we see the colors clearly. I save, and it should look like this now. Pretty nice. Okay, so you can see we have completed the nav for the desktop, but we need to remove the margin from the last element here. So we included margin of right to all the A elements, but we need to remove it from the last one so that it's pixel perfect. So let me show you what I mean. Let's inspect, and when I hover, you can see it has some margin. The orange part is the margin. So to remove that, this is how we usually do it. We need to select the last child of A. So I can say nav A, then last child here. So that last child will be our categories. Then we will set the margin to the right for that one to be 0, and I save. Now when I hover on the category, you see it doesn't have the orange part, but for the others they have the margin. Awesome. So we are done with this, and we can go ahead and work on our hero section, and then we'll come back to the navbar and make it mobile responsive. So stick around until we make it mobile responsive. You can check at the timestamp if you want to jump to that section. So let's go ahead and add content for our hero section. So that is HTML. This is the hero section in here. So for the hero section, I'll divide it into two. We have this part here, then we have this bottom part here. So I'll just call them the first section and the second section. So let's create two more divs. The first one will be first section, and the second one will be second section. So I'll duplicate that one, and I'll call this one second. Second section, and let's start with the first section. So for the first section, so we will have three parts. We'll have this image, we'll have this intro part, which is having this and this, then we'll have this other part here, and we will use the CSS grid to layout it. Okay, so we will add those parts as individual parts. let's start with the image. So right here I'll say dot hero -img. Here we will include our image, and we can start with the desktop image. We have an image for desktop and for mobile. So right here I can say dot, we give it a class name image. Actually let's first add it. I can just say img, hit enter, then the source will be assets, then stroke images, and then stroke, and you'll see we have image web3 desktop. I hit enter. Actually this should be only one. Then alt, I can say desktop image. Just a placeholder, and we'll have the desktop one and also the mobile one. So let's also add for mobile. We'll just change the name here. So I will remove even the /, then I add it again for the suggestion, then I'll select mobile. So we have two images for mobile and for desktop. So let me say mobile. Let us add a class for each. So I'll say class, and for this one I'll say image web3 desktop. I'll copy that one and paste it here. Then let's also add a class. For this one we'll have image web3 mobile. I'll copy that and paste it here and save. So we have the images there, and you can actually see them. This is for mobile, this is for desktop. I'll show you how we will handle them. So that is the first section, image. The second section is this one, where we have text content. So for that one I'll give it a class of intro. So dot intro, that will create a div with a class of intro, and then in here we will have two things. The first one is the h1 for the heading, and that one will be this one, the bright future of web3. I'll cut that text and paste it here. The other one can be the description here. So we have two things again here. We have the description and a button. So let's include that in a div. So I can say dot description, hit enter, and in here now we will include this text. We dive into web3 until where we have promise right here. So I will cut that text and include it in a p tag. So I'll add p tag and text and say save to auto format. Actually I'm using an extension called prettier to auto format, so you can use prettier. Although it requires some settings and configuration, you can check on YouTube how to configure prettier. Just search for prettier code format on YouTube and you'll know how to configure it, okay, in your VS Code. Cool. Now right here we also have a button. So I can say button, and for the button we'll have read more. I'll cut that and paste it here. Save. Okay, so far so good. So that is this part here. We need to add the news section. So let me do a recap. At our first section we have three sections. The first one is the image, and you can see they are siblings, okay, they are not nested inside each other. The first one is the image, the second one is the intro. You can see intro and hero image are not nested inside each other, but they are side by side, they are the same level. So at the same level again we add the news section. You need to consider that so that it's easier to style. So I can call this tag aside and then dot news and hit enter. And now here we will have a heading, so I can call that h2 and I will say news. news, and then inside the news, actually it's not news but new. Okay, new, but I'll let the class remain like that. I'm assuming these are the latest news or something. And then for that we will have these small sections, and for those sections I can call them cards. So I'll include a class of card, and we'll use this card to style them the same. So inside each card we'll have a small heading, and we'll also have some text. So I can say we have h3 for the heading, and then we will have p tag for the text. So this card will be similar for the 3 of them, so I will duplicate it 2 more times, and then we can add content for each. So for the first one we'll have these hydrogen versus electronic cars. I will cut that and paste it as the heading for the first one. Actually, let me remove this new, and then for the description we have up to EVS. I will cut that text and paste it in the p tag, and then we go the other one, heading will be that one up to this point, cut it and paste it here. The description will be up to this point, cut it and paste it. And then we have the final one up to the question tag, up to the question there, paste it at this one. Then the content for this one up to the means. Okay, I'm so lost. Let me close this one so that we have more spacing. Maybe it doesn't change anything. Let me minimize that. So we have what, private here up to means, up to there. I'll cut that and paste it here. I'll go ahead and save. Cool. So we have added content for news, and at news we have the heading, and then we have a card for each section. Card, then card, and card. We have content for each. Okay, cool. Now we have that first section there, and we can go ahead and style it actually. And then also we have this other second section. Let me just include some text so that you see where the second section is. Second section is there. Okay, we will add content for it later, but let's first style this one. We can see this is overlapping everything right here, so let's remove it. Let me comment it out first. I'll use control and forward slash to comment it so that we remove that content. And now we have this content for our first section, but we also have second section at the very bottom. Let's jump into CSS and see how we can make this come into live. So first of all, I want to remove this image, and we remain with the desktop one. So right here we'll style our hero section. So I will select the mobile image and hide it. So I'll say dot actually I don't know if I can have 3 sections here. So I will select this mobile image with this class, paste it here at CSS, and I will say dot, and I will say display none. So this will hide the mobile image. You can see it's gone, but on mobile mode we will show it, and then in that case we'll hide the desktop one. So for the desktop image we need to resize it. You can see the way it's overflowing. So I want to select this image, so I'll use this class here. I'll say dot hero hyphen img, and I'll select the actual img, and I'll set its width to be 100%. So I'll say width to be 100%, and you can see now it's a bit smaller. So now we can see our page clearly, and we need to make use of a CSS grid to lay out our page here, our hero section. So first of all, I will select that section. I'll select the hero section. This is how I'll do it. I'll say .hero -section, and we will add a display of grid, and this will make our hero section to be what we call a grid container, and with that it will automatically make our items to be grid items. So what are the grid items for this section? The grid items are the first section here and the second section here. So we have two items, okay, and now we can be able to create space between these two items using the grid gap property. So I can say grid grid hyphen gap, and I can say 50px, and this will create a gap between this first section and our second section. Remember, we haven't added content for our second section, but you can see now we have some gap between them. So if I inspect and hover over hero section, you'll see we have a gap here, okay, which is shaded with some boxes. Awesome. So that is the first step. The second step is to select a first section here and also make use of CSS grid to lay out it, okay. So right here I will go ahead and select the first section. So I'll say first section, and we'll add a display of grid to that section, so we can have a grid inside a grid, and then we can include some grid gap for this as well. So I'll say grid gap of 20px. So this will include gap between here, okay, between this image and also this section. So we'll have three sections. We'll use this grid to divide it into some what we call grid areas. So actually let's go ahead and define our areas. So this is how we define the different grid areas. We can say grid and then template areas. This is the areas, and we can use these to lay out our sections easily, okay. And what we will do, we will assume our page here, or our first section here, has 4 columns, and then we will allocate we will divide the columns into these different sections, okay. So first of all, the first column we can give it names which we will use later. So right here we can say hero-img. so these represent the first column. When I include a space and say hero-img again, that will represent the second column, and when I say hero-img, that will represent the third column, and when I space and include news, that we will include the fourth column. So our image will span through 3 columns, and then the news here will span only one last column. So these are the different areas. So, and you can arrange them the way you want. You can make news to have 2, hero image to have 2 also. You can include more columns, as many as you want. In this case I thought 4 of them make more sense, and you can also include different names, okay. You can include different, you don't have to say hero image, you can include maybe just hero. You can use a different name. I hope you get it. Now these also represent the first row, okay. For the second row I will need to come down here, okay. Don't use any comma, but just press enter. Then I will use another quotes, and I'll make this image to also go to the second row here. So I'll say hero-img and then hero-img hyphen img, a hero hyphen img, and then I'll say news. So now we have 2 rows and we have 4 columns. So the image is spanning through the 2 rows, and also the news is spanning through the 2 rows, but image is occupying 3 columns and the news here is occupying 2 columns. And when I save this, you'll see some difference. Save. Okay, you don't see much difference because we haven't specified that the image should occupy this area or the news should occupy this area. So we need to specify that. But before we do that, let's first complete the final one. So I will add another, don't include anything after this one. Just after this one is why we'll include a semicolon to terminate our line here. So for the last one, we have a 3rd row. Now for the 3rd row is where we will include this content here, and at the end we will still include our new or our news. Now right here I will remove hero image, hero image, hero image, and we need to include this description here. Let's see which class we gave it. We gave it a class of intro, so that will include our intro, intro, and intro. So this grid template areas is very awesome because you can lay out your complex site very easily. Okay, so you can read more about grid template areas on blog posts. Just search on Google grid template areas, read more about it if you are not understanding in this case, but I want you to understand. So this is what we have done. We have set grid template areas. We have 4 columns and we have 3 rows. For the first 2 rows, okay, these are the rows. The first 2 rows, we have the image occupying 2 of them, but it's also spanning through 3 columns. Okay, and then for the last column, from start to the end here, we will have our news. Okay, so it will span from start to the end. Then for this last row here, we will have our intro like this. Now let's specify these areas for each. We need to select the hero image here. This is the hero image where we will have our image, and give it the grid area. Okay, so this is how we do it. We will select dot hero hyphen img, and we will say the grid area for this one is hero hyphen img, and now this will place our image to be at these 3 columns and 2 rows. And let's save, and when you check, you'll see now our image is here. It's not stretching to the end. Now let's do the same for the news. So actually let's start with intro. So I'll say dot intro, and for intro let's give it the grid area. We have this property called grid area of intro, and it will know that it will target this area here. So when I save, come here, you will see that now this is the intro here, and the news here will remain to be on this side, but it will stretch up to the bottom. So right here, let's select the news dot news, and let's give it the grid area of news. Save. Now you'll see the news is on this side, and if I give it actually a background color, so let's say background of I don't know, pink. Save. So you'll see it's stretching up to the bottom of these. Okay, and you can see we have our layout. Actually we have the layout, we just need to style it. Pretty nice. And now we have a grid gap between them. Here we have a grid gap of 20. If I increase or decrease the gap, you'll see the difference. So let's say 50, and now you'll see it's much bigger, but I want it to be smaller. So here, if I inspect and hover over hero, okay, first section, you can now see the rows and also the columns. the way they are divided, the way news is occupying them, the image, and also the text, which is pretty awesome. So if I expand this to be on a bigger screen, it will be much more clearer here. Yeah, there we go. So that is how you can use our CSS grid to lay out a complex design. Okay, it's pretty powerful. Once you understand it, it's pretty awesome. So try to understand it and make sense out of it. Okay, now we remain with the easier part to style these other sections, individual parts. We don't need to touch the hero image again. We already included a width here of 100%, so that is good, I think so. Now the other part that we can touch on is the intro part here. Let's start with that one. Let's move it here for it to be more systematic here. And the first thing that I'll use is the display of flex. So you can use Flexbox inside a grid container. So we have first section here as the grid container here, but we are going to use Flexbox inside our intro. So it's totally fine to say display here of flex. What this will do, we'll press this wording side by side with this one. So that is awesome. I will save, we can preview it. And now you can see this text is here, this is here. Pretty awesome. And then the other thing we can include, we can style the H1, the individual H1. This is our H1 here, intro H1, and here I use a dot. Okay, here we go. So for this one, we will add a flex of 1. And for the description, we can add a flex of 2. So description will occupy more space than H1. So let's also select the description, intro, dot description, and I can say flex of 2. So what this will do is that it will divide this area here into 2, and this one will take half the width of this one. I don't know if it makes sense, or you can imagine it like this. It will divide the area maybe into 3. This one will take 1 of the area, so the 3 areas are equal sections. So this will take 1 of the section, this will take 2 of the sections. So that is what flex of 1 here and flex of 2 means. So if I say flex of 1, flex of 1, they take equal sizes. Cool. Now for H1 again, let's include margin to the right so that they don't touch each other. Margin to the right of about 30 px. Let's change its font weight. So font weight, I'll give it 800. Let's make use of CSS variable to add the color for this one. So I'll say var, I invoke it, pass here a very dark blue. So you can see the power of variables. We set the font size for this one, font size to be about 30 px. So 30 px, and we need to terminate with semicolons, and I save. Now you will see our heading here looks pretty awesome. We have some spacing because of this margin of 30, and we can go ahead and style the description. Actually, for the description, we don't have much to do. All we can do maybe is change the font size for the paragraph to be 15 px, and we also specify the color here to be a bit grayish. So I'll say var, and I'll use a dark grayish blue, and then we can add margin to the top at the button. So let's select the button. I'll say intro, and then I'll say dot description, then we select the bottom element. Now for the button, let's add margin to the top, and this we can say 20 px. Save, and now this will create spacing between this paragraph and the button. Let's style this button so that it looks just like this one, the red one. So we are at the button here. Okay, for the button we need to set the color first. So color will be white, so we can say color. You can see right here it's black, so we need to set it to white, but not the normal white, but the one provided for us as off-white, like that. Then we need to set the background color to be the red color. It's already provided for us, so we can say var, then we say soft red. Save. Here is our button. We need to remove the border and include the spacing, increase the font size, and so on. So let's remove the border. So we'll set the border to be none. Okay, we need to include padding to this button of 9px to the bottom, 12px to the, okay, this is top and bottom, this is left and right. Awesome. Then we need to change the text to uppercase. We can use text transform. Transform, where is it? Okay, text transform uppercase. That will make it to be uppercase. If it's small case, you can change the font size. I'll make it small. Font size, I'll make it to be 10px, but because it's uppercase, it will be now smaller. Right now it's too big, so I'll say 10px. Yeah, this looks good, I think. And then I will include letter spacing. You can see that you have spacing here. We can say letter spacing of 2px, and that looks much better. We can make it bold, so we can say font weight to be bold. Actually not bold, we should specify to be 700. Actually we don't have 700 imported. We had 400, 700, 800. Okay, 700 is there. We can make use of it. And that is our button. We have text, we have this one, pretty nice. We just need to add hover effect to the button, because for active state we have a different design. So we can say active states, the button when you hover, it should be black. So let's change that to black, or fix it to black. So that should be pretty straightforward. We just need to say dot intro, then dot description, then button full colon, and right here we include the hover pseudo selector. Now for the hover pseudo selector, we include cursor to be pointer, and we include the background color to be black. So I will use the very dark blue variable, very dark blue. I save. Now when I hover, it's black. Pretty nice. So far so good. Now we just need to style these sections to complete that. Cool. So let's style the news section. We already have a class here. Let's see what else we can add. I will remove this background color. It is not pink, so it should actually be very dark blue or a dark color. So right here we can include the background color to be our variable here, and that will make use of the very dark blue color. And then let's have padding and let it be that px. Let us have what else? Color to be white. Actually right now it's black, so let's have color here, color to be our variable of white, I will save, and there we go. We have now our new section here. We just need to style our wording. Awesome. Let's select our H2 this new word here and make it that color. So I'll say where was our h2? So I'll say dot news, and we select the h2, and whatever we will do here is just give it a color of variable orange, soft orange. Also we can change the font size and margin to the bottom. Font size to be 30px and margin to the bottom to be 20px. I save, and there we go, we have this new color. And also the size and margin to the bottom. Awesome. Let's style our cards. So these will be cards, so we just need to select the class. So I'll say dot news, and then we have these sections here which are cards. So dot card, and all we will do for this, we'll add padding the bottom, and we need to include this line here. So I'll say padding to the bottom to be about 20px will do, and also we include a border to the bottom. So I'll say border bottom, border bottom, and this will be 1px solid. Let's make use of our variable here to be grayish blue, and we use grayish blue. I save. Now look, we have padding here to the bottom of 20px, and now we have this line which is grayish blue, and that line is the border to the bottom. Okay, another thing is we need to select the last child and remove this line. We don't have a line for our last child, so this is how we do it. Dot news, and then dot card, we use the pseudo selector of last child, and all we say is border none, border none. Also we remove padding to the bottom, padding to the bottom 0. So that removes these styles. Now we only have line to this one and to this one. Let's go ahead and select our heading here. Actually we can include margin to the bottom. So for our card, let's include margin here to the bottom of 20px, and for the last one we remove it. So I'll copy that, paste it, and set it to 0. So now we have some spacing between our cards. Awesome. Now let's select the heading here, which is h3, this one. So I'll say dot news, then dot card, then h3. For this one we can include margin to the bottom, margin to the bottom of about 7px, just a little bit of spacing. You can see the way they are together. When I save this file, you can see now we have some spacing there. We can change the color to be our off-white for consistency, so variable off-white. And finally we can change the font size to be a little bit smaller of 15px. So there we go. For these we have an active state. When we hover, I think they are links. You can style them as links, but in this case I'm just using h3. So I'll duplicate this one, and here we have the hover state. Okay, so I want to just set the hover state, hover, and the style for this one will be different. We just need to change the cursor here to be pointer, and the color to be soft orange. So color to be our variable soft orange. When I save, there we go, soft orange. Finally, in this news thing, we only need to style the p tag or our paragraph. So down here, let's have our .news and then .card, and we select the p tag. This should be dot, and for the p tag we can have our color as var grayish blue, and the font size to be 14px. I save, and there we go. This is our new section. This is it here, this is it here. So it looks pretty similar. We have layout these using CSS grid template areas. We have used some Flexbox inside the grid, and now all that remains for the desktop layout is the second section here. Okay, cool. You can take a bit of a break if you want, but for me I'll continue. We need to work on the HTML for this one, so I'll go ahead and add the HTML. So I will remove this one, and here what we need to have is these sections right here. We have the images, the text, and so on. So we need to give a class for this. There are also cards. Maybe we can still use the same, so card but for second section, or we can use a unique name, maybe popular. These are the popular stuff in the site or something, so we can say section dot popular, and for each we will have an image, so img. Okay. img. We'll have the source there, but I don't want to include it right now, so that I duplicate it. Then for each we'll have this div here with a number and some text. So let's say dot content for the div, and then for the number I can use span. Here we will have the number. Then for heading we'll have h3, and then for paragraph we will have p tag. So this is the layout of our card. So I have called it popular and it will be the same for this and this and this. So let's duplicate it 2 more times. You can copy and paste it, or you can use Alt Shift and the bottom arrow after you highlight it. Now we have 3 parts. Let's add content for each. So I will remove this comment and make use of it for the content. So numbers are easier to start with. It will be 01. Here we will have 02. Here we will have 03. Save. We will have images, and also we will have text. So for the first image, it's retro PC. So let's access assets, stroke images, stroke something to do with retro PC. Here we go. Also remove this one of them. Save. So we have the image. You can include retro PCs here as the alt. Okay, we have the heading, reviving retro PC. So I'll cut that one and paste it there. Description, we have up to upgrades, so cut that, paste there. I'm done with the first one. The second, let's have assets. Also let's have images. Also let's have something to do with laptops. I think it's this one, top laptops. So let's cut that one. Okay, not cut but copy, include it in alt. So top 10 laptops in 2022, cut that, paste it as the heading. and our best up to where we have budgets, cut that and include it at the paragraph. The last one, amazing assets. Let's include images, something to do with gaming, image gaming growth. So let's have gaming growth as our alt. Let's have the growth of gaming, cut that as the heading, and how the pandemic has whatever opportunities. Paste it, remove this, and we have a retro full stop there, don't miss it, and save. Okay, so we have the content for this other section here, which is going downwards, and for this one it will be pretty simple. We can select the second section down here. So let's go ahead and say second hyphen section, and we will add a display of flex, and we justify content to have space between them. So if I save, right now they are side by side. Let's have space between them by adding justify content of space between. Also, we can try to style that section using CSS grid, but in this case I'm using CSS Flexbox. So now we have them like this. It's coming along, right? Now let's select each of the sections. We can say .popular. We don't have any other class called popular, so we can directly target it. Popular. Now for each of these we can add a display of flex. Okay, display of flex, and now words will be here at the side, and we can add margin to the right, of 50px. Let's target the last one and remove margin to the right. So .popular last child margin 0. So for the last child we don't have margin. Now let's select the images like this. We can say .popular and then img. Let's give them a specific height of about 110px. This was an estimate, and let's give them margin to the right of about 15px. So margin to the right. Actually, if you include mr, we have a method shortcut for that, and it will give you easier margin to the right easily. 15px. And now let's see. Now look, the image is small, and now we have spacing between them, and if I stretch these to be on a bigger desktop, you will see it looks pretty nice. I want to include space between the content, so I will target it .popular and then .content, and I will add a display of flex. So if I say df, display of flex, Emmet is pretty awesome. You can include those shortcuts, and then flex direction, and then column, and then we can include justify content of space between. So that will include spacing, you can see, between them. So, and also they stretch up to the end here. Then I have these. I will duplicate it and select the span and style the number. So right here we'll have the span tag, then the span was for the numbers, so let's style the numbers. let's add a display of inline block. We increase the font size, so FS for font size, and we say 25px. Let's have a F weight, and for weight let's have 700. Let's change the color. For the color let's have var grayish blue. That's it for that one. And now you'll see that the number looks awesome now, pretty nice. Let's style the H3, so I can just duplicate this again. Let's have H3. For H3 we don't have much, only the font size that we will specify to be 14px, and margin top and bottom. Margin top and bottom will be 10px, left and right will be 0, and that's now what we have. Let's add hover effect to this one. So this has some hover effect. It's supposed to be a link, but I'm using a heading, so hover, and cursor will be pointer, and color will be soft red, I guess. Now when I hover, soft red, awesome. When I hover, awesome. Now one last thing for the paragraph. So let's start the paragraph. It's the only one that remains here. Popular content dot content, and then I select the paragraph. Now for the paragraph we will have a font size of 14px, and then we will have a color here of var dark grayish blue for the paragraph. Then let's have line height. We have a bit of spacing, so we can have line height of 1.5. I save. Now that looks much better on desktop. So this is the desktop design. You can see looks pretty awesome. We used grid to divide it into two sections, include grid gap, used CSS grid to design these sections, to layout them rather, then use some Flexbox here and here. So this is has given you some good knowledge of CSS grid and CSS Flexbox, which is awesome. Now the next thing that you need to learn is how to make this site to be mobile responsive. Work on our menu here, nav menu. So all that remains is to make this site to be mobile responsive, but so far so good. So right here we'll have mobile design. And we will start with the navbar. That is the most complex. So let's see what we have at the navbar. First of all, we need to add some icons for menu open and menu close. So we can add them after our links here. We will have img. Let's have assets, images, and we have menu, close, and icon menu. So for icon menu, that will be menu open, icon hyphen menu, and for the other one it will be for menu close. I will duplicate that, and let's have these as icon menu close and icon menu close for alt. Now another thing, we can include some class names. So both of them, I'll give them a class of menu icon menu. So I'll have icon menu here, icon hyphen menu, and for this one I will also have a class of icon hyphen menu, just like this. Okay, cool. But for individual menus, we can have, this is menu open. For individual icons, this is menu close, menu hyphen close. Okay, so we are good. So when we preview it, you can see we have them here. We have this for opening, this for closing. We will have a backdrop here. Let's first add it. So dot backdrop, which is a div. So we have three things we have added here. Cool. Now in CSS, at the desktop, let's go to where we had a tree, and now our nav. Maybe after our nav here, we can hide some of these items. So right here, I'll say dot icon menu, and what we need to do is display of none, and also let's add a cursor to be pointer. So on desktop we don't see them, we will see them only in mobile. So also we hide the backdrop. We hide it by saying display of none. Now the other styles are for our responsive, which is in mobile down here. So the design for mobile, it was created for a mobile with a width of 375px. So we can specify that. Okay, so I'll say at media, and I'll say screen, and so this is how we specify the width. We will say max hyphen width of 376px. So if the width is below 376, then the styles that are below here will be applied. Okay, for example, we can select our container and we can add a background color of red and save. So if we are at a width of less than 376, we should have a background of red. So you see, this is 375px, we have background of red. So this is the design that we should be working on. So we can just say overflow hidden. So it's hidden, we don't see some content, but we just want to focus on the nav. Okay, so for now let's remove the background color and let's keep hidden. And for now let's add some padding. Let's adjust our padding for the container, and I'll set it top and bottom to be 30px, left and right to be 20px. I'll save it. Let's work on our nav links. Okay, so this is our nav links. So this will be like our side nav. This will be actually our side nav, and this is how we can work on it. So right here we can say nav, and then we select the links, and in here we will start by setting its position here to be fixed. Okay, that is the first step. If I save, you'll see it here, it's overflowing, and then we need to give it a width of 200 px will be good. I save. Let's give it a background so that we can be able to see where it is exactly. Okay, so background of let's say grayish, gray color will be good. So here is our menu. You can see where it is. It has a width of 200px. It has a position of fixed. It needs to start at the top and to be on this side. So for that we need to say top 0. okay, and then right to be 0. I save, and now you can see it's right here. Now we need to give it a height to stretch up to the bottom, so height to be 100 VH, 100 VH, and there we go, it's stretching all the way. We need to arrange our links. Now for the links, we will use Flexbox, so we can say display of flex, so display flex, and then we use a flex direction of column right here. I save, and now you can see it's downward. We give it let's make this a bit bright. I save. Okay, we can now see the links clearly. We can give it padding to the top of about 200 px and padding left, so that the links are not too much at the wall, of 30 px. So now the links are a bit inside. We need to I think target the links themselves. So nav and then dot links, and we target the a tag, and we give them margin to the bottom of 30 px, okay, and I save. So there we go. Now the links looks super awesome. Okay, we need to make our X icon to be visible when this is open and to hide it when it's closed. So for that, we will be making use of a class called active class, okay. So whenever we have a class of active right here, so if we have a class of active right here, we will want to show this one. If we don't have that class, we hide it, okay. So this is how we will show it. We'll just say nav, and then we have links, okay, dot links, and then we'll have dot active, okay. If we have this class, we will set right here right to be 0. If it's 0, it will be visible. So if we don't have this, we need to change right here to be a negative 200 px, and negative and this 200 is the width of our nav, okay. So if we don't have the active class, our side will not be visible. We need to include it correctly here. So if it's there, you see, we can see it, okay. But if I come here and remove this active, you can see we hide it, okay. So we will be adding this class using JavaScript. So you can see now we don't see it because right here is negative 200. When we have it, it's visible. Awesome. That is it for links. Now let's start another one for the menu open. So menu hyphen open. So this is the hamburger menu icon. So when we have the class active, that means that the menu will be open. So let's do this. Menu open dot active. So we have two of them. We have the one when we don't have the active class and when we have the active class, okay. What's the difference? When we don't have the active class, the menu is closed. Therefore we are supposed to click on that hamburger menu icon, this menu icon, and then we open it. In that case, we will make it active. So when it's not active, we should see the icon so that we actually click it to open, okay. So right here we show it. So we add a display of inline block. Remember at the top we had hide it, but now we show it, okay. So now we can be able to click it and make our menu to be active, okay. Once it's active, we need to hide that menu now. So once it's active, we will hide it. So we will display of none, okay. So when it's active, we hide it. When it's not active, we show it. Now that is for menu open. For menu close, it will be vice versa. So menu hyphen close. So when we don't have the active class, we should not see it. That means that the menu is not yet open, so we shouldn't see it, and we add a display of none. Now when we actually go ahead and open the menu, we should see this menu close icon so that we can be able to close that menu. So I show it now. So menu close. Okay, here we should have the active class. So when this is active is when we show it. Okay, we show the X when it's active, we show the hamburger menu when it's not active. So try to think about it and you'll see it makes sense. So for the side nav, which is our links, I will include a Z index of 99, and then for the close icon here, I will include a Z index of higher than 99, so 100 will do. I save. So right now our menu is not active, therefore we only show the hamburger menu icon right here. But now let's try and make it active. So our menu here, when it's active, so we will be adding a class here with the JavaScript. We will be adding it on our menu here with JavaScript. Okay, I am messing up active, and we'll be adding it here as well, active. Actually we will be adding even at the backdrop, but we haven't added the styles for that. So when menu is active, when we click the hamburger menu, it opens the menu. We show this one, we hide the hamburger menu, but we show the X icon. So when I save, it will be something like this. Okay, we have the X icon here, we will show the backdrop, and yeah, we will show the side nav. So let's start the backdrop. That is the only one that remains. So for backdrop, we can start it right here. So by default, backdrop will have a display of none, but when it's active, we'll have a display, we will show it a display of block or something. So backdrop.active we'll have a display of block. Okay, so we'll be able to see it. Let's style it. So first of all, we'll have a background of black. So we should be seeing it by now. We don't. Black, we should be seeing it. Okay, we don't, because it doesn't have a height and a width. So we give it a height of 100 VH, and we give it a width of 100 VW to occupy the entire screen. So now we see it right here. Let's position it, position fixed, so that it stops overflowing everywhere. There it is. We need to position it so that it occupies nicely. Top 0 and left 0. Actually we need to put that left 0, and now you can see this is the backdrop right here. We can see it, it's occupying the entire screen, and it's active, so that's why we are seeing it. Okay, and another thing, now we need to make it transparent. So for transparency, we can use opacity here of 0.2. Opacity will include the transparent feature, and now we have that transparency. Let's remove background color for this one, and you'll see now it will be distinct. Okay, so I remove background color for this one. Actually I should set it to white. Okay, I should set it to white. So the suggestion to work with of white. Yeah, now this is clear. We have this backdrop, it's it's transparent, we can see the content behind. And what else remains? Maybe Z index. We can set its Z index to be lower than our nav, which is 98 here. This was 100, this was 99, so this will be lower, 98. It will be behind there. Awesome. So now all that remains is to add and remove the active class using the JavaScript. So right now we are adding it manually, but we should do it using JavaScript. So if I highlight all of them and remove them, now we are closing our menu. We should not see backdrop, we should not see everything here, but only we should see the hamburger menu. So let's go to JS and add the active class using JavaScript. So we need to add a JavaScript file. That should be the script tag. So I'll say script, enter, and right here we should add, I think, the source. That will be main.js, or you can use a script.js, whichever you want. Now another thing, when we include the script tag at the head, we need to include a defer attribute so that JavaScript is loaded at the right time after the page has loaded. Okay, so don't miss this, else your JavaScript may not work. So after that I save, and let's create that main.js file here. I'll go ahead and create a new file and I'll say main.js. Now to test if everything is working, if it's loading JS, let's say console.log of loading. If I save and we open the console here, you'll see we have loading, which is this one right here. So our JS is being loaded. For JavaScript, we need to select our links here. We need to select our icon menu, which is menu open. We need to select a menu close, and we need to select the backdrop. So we are selecting 4 things. Okay, let's start by selecting them. It is pretty easy to select them. So I can say const to set the variable of links, and this will be equal to document, and we have .query selector. Document.query selector, we select the links, and I duplicate these 3 more times. Okay, so this is for links. Let's have our menu open here, menu open, and we include that class here. So I think I can widen this. So we select menu hyphen open, and we have menu close here, menu close, and we select menu close here, menu hyphen close. We have our backdrop, and we select our backdrop here, backdrop. Okay, so backdrop class, I think it didn't have that. Let's confirm backdrop, this one. So I am selecting all those classes using JavaScript. Okay, and now these classes act like objects in JavaScript, and we can add events to them and do stuff to them. Okay, first of all, we will start with the menu open. When we click the menu open, we want to add the active class to each of these classes. This is how we do it. So we say menu open, and then .add event listener, and whichever event we are adding is the click event. Okay, so this is the first parameter. The second parameter will be a callback function, and I will use an arrow function which looks like this if you have never worked with JavaScript before. So right here I will select our links, I will select our menu open, menu close, and backdrop, and add the active class to them. So I can say links, and I will say dot class list. We have that property, and we have a method in this property called add to add a class, and whichever class we are going to add is the active class. Okay, as simple as that. So now we have added the active class to our links, and we need to do the same for menu open, for menu close, and for the backdrop. So I'll just highlight them. Okay, I will just duplicate this one, and we select them here. So we select menu open here, we add class to it, we select menu close here, we add class to it, and we select the backdrop, and we add class to it. So we are adding the active class to all of them, which is awesome. Now let's test it. So now we have this menu open, which is our hamburger menu. When I click, we are adding classes of active to all of this. Therefore, the necessary styles that we have added here should be applied. So I click, look, menu is open. When I click this, it's not working. Why? We haven't added an event listener to our close icon. So let's duplicate this code. It should work the same, almost the same. So right here we add an event listener now to our close icon, which is this one. So close, we add an event listener of click, but now instead of add, we will remove. So I use Ctrl D to select all of this here, and we have now remove. We remove the class whenever we click the X icon, and the styles now will be removed. So now when I click open, it opens. When I click the X icon, it closes. Look, we can open and close our menu. Awesome. Now we should also be doing the same with the backdrop. You can see it's the same knowledge, we just duplicate it multiple times. So right here we just select here the backdrop, we add event listener to it and remove classes everywhere. And now when I click backdrop here, it also closes the menu. Okay, and if you check at the elements, there are classes which are being added and being removed when I inspect. So you can see right now we have icon menu open, but when I click, we have these active classes which are being added. When I click this one, we have the active classes being removed, and that is all that is into it. So if you want it to open smoothly, you can add a transition to your nav here. So right here we add a transition of all. We can say 650 milliseconds and let it have an effect of ease in out. I save, and also let's have the same effect for this one. For backdrop, let's have the same effect for our menu open and our menu close. So now when I click, it opens smoothly, it closes smoothly, which is much better. Okay, now let's make this part to be mobile responsive. We had added an overflow of hidden. Let's remove it and let it overflow. Let it overflow so that we can fix it. Okay, so down here we go ahead and now fix our hero. Now we had used grid template areas for our hero section, and to fix that we can still use it. I can say dot first section, and whatever I will do, I will specify the grid template areas to be only in one row. Okay, but three, okay, to be only in one column but 3 rows, this way. So the first one will be hero img. So the first row will only have the image, the second row will only have intro, the third row will have our news, and that is it. That is all that is into it, and we save. Now look, okay, the image is so wide, but it's in one row. Okay, we need to change the image for desktop. Let's hide the desktop image. So dot image. Okay, for mobile we will show it, for desktop we hide. So for mobile we show it. Display block, remember we had hidden it before, but for desktop we show it. So dot image. It's still selecting web3 mobile, but I want web3 desktop. So web3 desktop, in this case we display none. since it's now mobile, none. Okay, so far so good. Okay, this content is also making this one to overflow, I think. So let's fix the bottom one. Maybe it will fix the other one. So so let's say dot second section and select the dot popular, and actually we need to select just the second section, and we change the flex direction to column. So flex direction column. I save. Awesome. Now look, it's not overflowing anymore, it's in one line. Pretty awesome. Now let's fix this section here. It was our intro, so we can say dot intro, and we change the flex direction here to column. So I'll set that to column, and oops, intro. Save. There we go. Awesome. Let's select the heading. So I'll say dot intro, and we select the h1, and we set the font size to 40 px, and we set the margin to the bottom, margin bottom to 15 px. Awesome. Yeah, we can select the description and increase its line height. So I can say dot intro and dot description, and we set the line height to be about 1.6 is awesome, and we save. So now we have a good spacing between them. Now look, awesome. I'm so happy about this. It's responsive. We have designed it this way. Now let's fix this section only, and we will be done. That is the popular part. Popular, and for popular we just need to set the margin to the right to 0 first, margin right to be 0 first, and then we need to set margin to the bottom for each of them. Margin to the bottom of about 30 px will do, and we need to set the dot popular here. We select the h3 for popular, and we set the margin to the bottom, or rather top and bottom. So I can say just margin here, top and bottom, to be 5 px and 0. So when I scroll, top and bottom we set for the number, and down here, and there we go. Now another thing, we had set the height of the container to be 100 vh, but you can see we still need more spacing down there. So what you need to do is to say this is the mean height. Okay, so if there is more content, it can expand. You see, now we have some good spacing. Now this is our mobile design, looking good. Our desktop design also is looking awesome. So that is how you can use CSS Grid and CSS Flexbox to achieve this design. Use a bit of JavaScript for the mobile nav, and yeah, that's it. So I'm happy with this. You can go ahead and check on more front-end mentor designs, and select one design and try to recreate it and see if you can. And that is how you practice your HTML and CSS. Also, there are some JavaScript challenges, you can as well try them. So we have a lot of awesome designs here. So with that, this is the end of the video. If you enjoyed, leave a thumbs up. Also remember to support my channel by subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.